Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier, and once again, thank you for stopping by. I do appreciate it. I took this photograph of the sunrise in the morning just outside my window. It was very beautiful. It was as if the clouds were an orange, I don't know how to describe it, at times fuchsia. It was very beautiful. We've put up the link for the speech for Christine Lagarde from Mindspeak. That's on YouTube. That link is on the front page of the website and under Rich Wrap-Ups. I'll also put up a photograph of Hannah meeting Christine Lagarde, and Hannah said to her, "I want to be like you." And Madame Managing Director said, "Just work hard. You can be anything you want to be." That was very lovely. There's also a PDF for her actual speech, but she said a lot more if you listen to the YouTube footage. I'll put up a photograph of her on the live feed. I went to a press conference yesterday that Madame Lagarde held with the Cabinet Secretary Rotich and the Governor of the Central Bank, Chiguna Dungu. At that she said, we're talking tapering, not tightening. It said a lot of interesting things, actually, perspectives on the global economy. You remember on the weekend I wrote, if Mindspeak was an ice cream sundae, then Christine Lagarde's appearance is like the maraschino cherry that you find on top of the sundae. And she really was incredibly articulate, incredibly smart. My home thoughts returned to Mombasa, and I'm going to put up a photograph of the entrance and exit to the port. You'll see a ship in the background and a man selling cassava and corn. Those are the staples of any visit to Nairobi, with lashings of lemon and chilies, and it's very delicious, all washed down with a coconut. And my brother's in Chicago, and I came across this photograph. Ice builds up along Lake Michigan at Chicago's North Avenue beach as temperatures fall below zero. I found this quote of Robert Gates about President Obama's Afghanistan strategy. "As I sat there, I thought the president doesn't trust his commander. Can't stand Afghanistan President Hamid Karzai. Doesn't believe in his own strategy and doesn't consider the war to be his. For him, it's all about getting out." Kim Jong-Un, the youngest head of state anywhere in the world, apparently has turned 31 today. So happy birthday to him. Interesting developments there, weren't there? Rebels in South Sudan are confident that full reconciliation can be achieved with the government, their chief negotiator has said. Let's hope so, because certainly the deterioration was very sharp, and once people leave such a place right on the frontier, it's very difficult bringing them back, in my humble opinion. About 1,000 people have died since the violence erupted. The euro, when I came in, it was at 136.32. It's around 136.10. Dollar index 80.87. The yen softened sharply, close to 5-year lows versus the dollar at 104.96. Swissy 0.9081. The safe haven bid has been eroding. Pound 164.16. Aussie 0.8929. India rupee 62.335. South Korean won 1064.50. Closed at 1068.38 in Seoul, touched 1070.72, which was the weakest since November 13th. The issue for the South Koreans is the cross-rate South Korean yen. Yen has made Japanese manufactured goods so much cheaper over the last 2 years. The Rial is at 237.18, Egyptian pound weaker at 695.42, and I just discovered the reason why they're allowing each and every one of their citizens to transfer out up to $100,000 this year. I think that softened up the pound. Rand 1063.93, 1055, which was a key area where it sort of rebounded from, then broke it. Indicates that it goes to 11. You can have a stop around 1050 or 1049. The dollar has in fact appreciated 1.7% in the past 3 months. Yen down 6.9% during that same period. Euro up 2.2%. The Swissy down 1.2% this year, and that's what I was talking about, a very fast erosion of that safe haven bid. I'll put up a 3-month chart of the dollar index. The dollar has been rebounding of late, particularly since the beginning of the year. I think it's up just under 1%. I'm not sure whether this is that big dollar rally which I'd expected last year. I think it's all about taper light, but you never know. Lagarde was mentioning that she was expecting capital flows back into the United States. Euro dollar 3-month chart, my stock remains at 133.80. Dollar yen touched 105.44 on January the 2nd, which was its weakest level since October 2008, not far away from it at 104.96. Gold, I'll put up a 3-month chart that's slightly softer over the last 24 hours, 1228.50. And I think there's an outside chance of a $1,000 print in 2014. Crude oil just above $94. It really was in nosebleed territory when it had got above 100, and it always does that. You can see it's becoming fully valued, and it stretches, and everyone gets busted out of it before it flows down again. Dubai plans new rules to control speculation on properties sold before they're built after home prices climbed by more than 30% last year. This is the head of the Emirates Land Department. He's expecting home prices to rise 35 to 40% this year. It's interesting, my brother's in Dubai, did rather well, bought a property on the lows. And obviously it's had a boom-bust cycle, which is something I don't think they'd want to repeat again. I think they won't. But the interesting part is Dubai is like the Switzerland of the Middle East. It has a safe haven bid. As the neighborhood gets more dangerous, people fly to Dubai, and I think that's what essentially that correlation is, the key correlation for Dubai. I wrote a piece on the 3rd of December over the holiday period, and I wasn't able to read it to you. If I may, Africa remains in a sweet spot. I find that clarity of thought is a valuable thing in this hurly-burly world of ours. And I find clarity of thought at 35,000 feet, and typically at the end of the year, when I corral the family into the Nissan Patrol and drive down to Mombasa, preferably via the Savo. The wide open spaces, the ochre landscape, the extraordinary green after 4 days of seasonal but way above the historical moving average of rains is like a canvas against which I can better focus on strategy. Because life is more than just tactics, unless you're a day trader, which I am not. Galdessa has a star tent, and as I looked up at the stars, which looked so close, I felt like reaching up and touching them. I cast my mind over the year. Plenty has happened, you would surely agree. Edwin Lefebvre, in his seminal book for traders anyway, Reminiscences of a Stock Market Operator, said the tape is your telescope. What he meant was that investing is about the mathematics. Everything else is noise and interference. As I write this on the 27th, this has been a banner year for African equities for the second consecutive year. Rwanda's rallied over 130%, Tanzania 95%, Ghana 80.49%, Nigeria 47.85%, Nairobi 42.441%, obviously that was on the 27th. South Africa just below record high, set a record high early this year. The Africa tape has been relentless and bullish since early 2012. As I've said previously, the bull phenomena is an Africa-wide one, and the defining characteristic of the 24-month bull run has been an upsizing of allocation by international investors to the continent. Think of it like a penny dropping and various voices all over the world saying, get me some Africa for my portfolio. In most instances, these investors did not have any Africa in their portfolios before. Coincident with the bull move in our equity markets, the capital markets had an open sesame moment. This was best evidenced by the government of Rwanda, who sold $400 million of 10-year euro bonds, and with impeccable timing at an all-in yield of 6.875%. Of course, the day Rwanda sold that bond, the US 10-year Treasury was at 1.795%, and today it's above 3%. That equates to a big baseline shift and is something which we're going to have to suck up in early January when we take our Eurobond to the international capital markets. The big point remains that the deep pools of liquidity found in the global bond markets were not available to Africa, and now they are. That's a game changer. When you draw down big slugs of capital from the Eurobond market, it's no free lunch, however. Bondholders now have the ability to price our credit on a real-time and continuous basis. For example, left-field policy-making announcements, which once kind of vaporized into the ether over time, will now roil our credit immediately and instantaneously. It is said that the greatest bull markets climb a wall of worry. Nairobi had to hurdle the Westgate attack and a series of official narrative non sequiturs. Fatou Bensouda's decision to seek a delay more than 5 years down the track, and seeking a further delay is just a different way of throwing in the towel. In the president's case, also substantially de-risked the Kenyan equity markets. Events in South Sudan once again confirm that we live in a dangerous neighborhood, and the risk company Maplecroft has now characterized East Africa as the most dangerous neighborhood in the world. We all hope our brothers and sisters appreciate that the 21st century is not a binary game, but one of collaboration, because if they cannot collaborate with each other, it kind of precludes our collaboration. In point of fact, I expect President Obama to put his shoulder and some of his equity to the wheel in support of the world's most newly minted state. I expect a hard power US insertion into South Sudan, and I think China would be wise no longer to count on South Sudanese oil. Risks have metastasized, the spread of a cancer from one organ or part to another non-adjacent organ or part, as risk is wont to do in this new century. As I said at the end of 2012, this rally has legs and further to go, and I think Africa remains in a sweet spot, and I think we'll see another outcome this year, as we saw last year and the year before. Moving on. Congo's army fought gun battles on Tuesday with a separatist militia just 30 kilometers from Lubumbashi. The governor, Moise Katumbi, who's an interesting personality, says the army is hunting them and fighting will continue till they are permanently driven away. And in conclusion, I would say, the asymmetric response to Kinshasa, since Kinshasa dealt that blow in the east, has really begun to intensify. I'll remind you that Kinshasa awoke on the 29th of December to the sound of gunfire. Classic attack in the manner of so many past African coup d'etat on the three keystones of power, headquarters of the Radio Television Nationale Congolaise in Gili International Airport, and the army base. So these are indeed dangerous times. I'll put up a photograph of President Joseph Kabila. I just mentioned that the DRC is the very antithesis of the description, linear. Ethiopia has rejected an Egyptian proposal on Nile as dam talks falter. We will not go to Ethiopia unless Addis Ababa shows desire to return to negotiations to resolve the points of disputes. The Ethiopian saying there's nothing that will stop it about the dam. And another fellow saying we need 80 billion cubic meters as an Egyptian. We will not let go one drop of water. The South African oil share is down 0.81% in 2014 and just off a record. Dollar versus rand, I'm going to put up a 1 month chart. That's at 10.6366. I think it's going to 11. The Egyptian pound, as I said, weaker at 695.42. I wasn't sure what that was all about, but it turns out the Egyptian central bank has relaxed restrictions on foreign currency transfers abroad, allowing individuals to make a one-time transfer abroad of up to $100,000 this calendar year. And I think that's why you've seen a softening up in the pound. The central bank said on Monday reserves had dipped to 17.032 billion in December from 17.766 billion in November. That's of course less than half the level it was before the uprising. The Egyptian stock market is up 0.27% this year and at 36-month highs. Nigerian all shares up 1.16% this year. The Ghana Stock Exchange up 1.69% this year. So a good start to the year, you can see. Interesting bit of data. Over the last 4 years, our Africa-India business has grown at a compound annual growth rate of 60%. So says Diana Layfield, the Chief Executive Officer of Standard Chartered Bank in Africa. A Zambian politician has been charged for calling the president a potato, apparently. In Kenya, according to the latest news, the Kenya government is expected to begin investor meetings ahead of its debut Eurobond offering the week of January 20th, according to market sources. Kenya is rated B1, B+, B+, looking to raise $1.5 billion through the sale. And I wrote about this on the 4th of November. I said, talking about how Kenya was going to join the Africa's Eurobond League. I gave some comments to CNN regarding the new multi-billion-dollar China Finance Railway. In November 2013, President Kenyatta laid the foundation stone for the construction of a new standard gauge railway line in Mombasa that will connect Mombasa with Nairobi. This project will define my legacy as President of Kenya, he said. What we're doing here today will most definitely transform not only Kenya, but the whole Eastern African region. I said the Chinese financed railway will be as big a game changer as the Lunatic Express was during its time, more than a century ago. Kenya is a transit state, and if you want to embed that advantage, you need to have a first-class infrastructure. And then David Shin, who was once an US ambassador to Ethiopia and Burkina Faso, said the project probably makes good sense. Assuming that the cost is in line with predicted benefits, it will certainly improve economic integration and will probably have a positive impact on political integration. On that note, I'll put up a photograph of the railway crossing at Manyani Gate, which is where we entered the Sava 12 days ago. You'll see how green it was after that very heavy rains. And another one of the Mombasa-Nairobi railway line that I took this time as I went down. The Kenya shilling has been on a weaker trend, but the dollar has been very strong across the markets. It's trading at 87. Nairobi all shares strong start to this year, up 2.18% so far this year. The NSE 20 up 1.34% so far this year and jumped 1.06% yesterday. The stock market has been very strong. Safaricom is all set to set a fresh all-time closing high today. But generally, as I thought, I think a lot of liquidity has come into sub-Saharan African frontier indices at the beginning of the year, and that's what we're seeing push these indices higher. I had a 5% objective for January. We've already seen some of that. Once again, thank you for stopping by. It's thoroughly appreciated.